viewers of Entrepreneurship Couch, welcome to today's program. On today's program, we've got Saliwe. She is the head of Talia, Women and Network program. Talia, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Shepherd, for inviting me to this platform.
Okay. Talia, on this program, we try and make sure that we share entrepreneurship experiences and exposures, as well as trying to inspire and motivate others to start and run their own businesses, as well as bringing people onto the platform that may help these people to grow.
Okay.
So I would want at this stage to ask you to briefly tell us more about yourself. Who is Saliwe?
Okay. So thank you once again. So Saliwe, like you mentioned, is I'm a Christian woman. I'm a wife. I am a mother to two beautiful children. And I'm also the founder of Talia Women's Network. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. I've got a passion for seeing young people develop and grow, particularly young women. And this is coming from my experiences in life as well. And just trying to see how we can support each other and make the road much easier for each other as we are developing professionally and personally as well.
Talia, I know you have partly answered that. My next question is going to focus on what is it that prompted you to start this particular organization?
Okay. So, Shepherd, I want to take you back to 2008. And we know how hard it was living in Zimbabwe. And it was especially hard for myself and my husband. And during this period, we found ourselves out of jobs. And I always joke with people that way. People were running around for queues, saying there's a sugar queue here, there's a milli milk queue here, and they would queue. We wouldn't run because we didn't have the money. So it was during this period we found ourselves unemployed, like I said, and living in a home, a really dilapidated home, up 2nd Street Extension, on Golden Stairs there. It had no electricity, it had no running water, but for us, you know, that's what we could afford at that time. And during this time, it brought us closer to each other, and we started really praying together. We had been married for like 5 years or so, but, you know, and we're both Christians, but the concept of praying together was foreign to us. But it was during this time of hardship where we had to pray for our next meal, where we had to pray for God to hold up the roof of our home. We would walk everywhere we had to go. At the time, we were fellowshipping at Celebration Church, and we would find ourselves walking to church, looking for opportunities for jobs in town. We'd walk from all the way up Golden Stairs into town. And these were really difficult times, but we grew during this time. And it was during these periods of growth and reflection that we agreed that if God took us out of the situation that we're in, whatever blessings were supposed to come to us were not just for us and our family. We also wanted to impact someone. And then we started playing around with the idea of Talia, helping women, helping girls at the stage. God was very faithful to us. I mentioned how hard it was, but we never went to bed hungry. We had well-wishers assisting us, and we saw the hand of God in our lives. And so in the same way that people were assisting us, we also wanted to assist others as well. Towards the end of the year 2008, I got a job, my husband got a job, and you know, it was like a dream, because you know, launching ourselves in the NGO sector, now we have US dollar salaries, but you know, we remembered the promise that we had made, that as we were blessed, we also needed to bless others. So by end of 2009, that's where we registered Talia Women's Network. Talia is a Hebrew word. The meaning of the word is Jew from heaven. Both my husband and I come from an agricultural background, so we appreciate the value of Jew on vegetation. So in the same way that Jew brings refreshment to vegetation, it brings rejuvenation to vegetation. That's what we sought to have our organization do. So in a nutshell, that's how we launched the organization and registered. This was 2009 when we eventually registered the organization, but it was only in 2012 that we started being active in the communities. We were trying to figure out how, we just knew we wanted to help women and girls, but in what way? So 2012, that's when we launched ourselves into the menstrual hygiene space, buying sanitary pads and giving them to girls and communities and women in need. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's the process of how Talia was formed.
You are leading a very noble cause there. I would want them to understand from you, you are a mother, you are leading and running an organization. How have you managed to balance these roles, being a mother, being a leading person in your organization?
So, yeah, that's a hard one. And that's a question that I get in so many platforms about how do you balance. So in addition to being a mother and a leader in an organization, I'm also an avid learner. So I see women who are doing so many things, who are climbing up the corporate ladder, and I'll immediately hook up on them and learn and be mentored by them. So I want to emphasize on the value of mentorship, that it has also helped me put in balance and in focus the priorities that I should have in my life. I've also participated in over the past 2 years, I participated in 2 international fellowship programs. The first one was Women Leaders of the World, which is run out of San Francisco. And the second one was African Women Entrepreneurship Cooperative, which is AWORK, were run out of Washington, D.C. And these fellowship programs have helped me a lot with regards to grasping business concepts and with regards to even the mentorship that I spoke about, because each participant, each fellow is matched one-on-one with a mentor. And so it has helped me prioritize and balance. I also rely a lot on my family, on my husband, for us to be able to share the roles with regards to parenting and also, just how to develop my business. I also have a very reliable advisory board for our organization, and they've also helped me put everything into focus and to prioritize and lift the organization further. But one key thing that, like I mentioned, it's the value of mentorship and learning from each other, and particularly women supporting each other. Because as you learn from other successful women, you also get nuggets and wisdom on how you can also put your own life into perspective.
How does then your organization in particular speak to issues to do with employment creation and empowerment?
Okay. So our organization, so let me take you back a bit again. I mentioned that from 2012, we started working in the menstrual hygiene space, and we were buying pads and distributing to vulnerable communities. At the time, it was out of our own personal resources. And at the time, I was also fully employed in other organizations. First, I rose up to be the director at the Boost Fellowship. And then I joined International Youth Foundation for the Zimbabwe Works program. So in my work space, I was always working with young people. And so when my contract at IYF ended in 2017, I also then reflected on how we could make the Talia initiative more sustainable. Buying pads, buying hygiene products for people was not sustainable, because after 2-3 months, they're calling you and they're like, Madam, murukupi, muruku yarini, atisina zvekushandisa. So I was trying to build in the sustainability element for this program is how we developed 3 major pillars for Talia. And I'll talk briefly on these 3 pillars and how they address your question. The first pillar was on education and leadership development, because we are saying rather than buying new pads, rather than giving you things, how can we build up on your skills and what you already have so that you are able to be empowered to buy whatever you need to do or to look after yourselves as a young woman. So under the Education and Leadership Development Program, we run a program that we call Uplift Leadership Development Program, which is really a life skills work readiness program for young women with a tertiary qualification. So most of them, they have a certificate, a diploma, a degree, because of the high unemployment rates. They've got this qualification, but do they have the skills for employment? So our program is an 8-month program which they enroll into, and they get soft skills training, life skills training, work readiness skills, and also mentoring, because I believe so much in the value of mentoring. We've got women leaders in this country who are mentoring these young women. Then after the training, they go on internships for the work experience component. And we hope these internships transition into full-time employment. So it has worked for some, it has not worked for some. In addition to this training, we layer it with financial literacy training and entrepreneurship training to give them a second career option. So because our country has a high unemployment rate, rather than sending out CVs and trying to look for a job, set up an venture and be an employer in your own regards. So this is how we are addressing unemployment in the urban space. But then when you look into the rural setup, because we also work a lot in the rural communities, the demographics are different. Our young women here are mostly school dropouts. So whereas in the urban areas, we are seeing degrees, diplomas who are sitting at home, in the rural areas, what is more prevalent is school dropouts. They dropped out at grade 7 or Form 1, Form 2 because of financial challenges, because of early marriages or teenage pregnancies, whatever it is. So our program is slightly different. And this falls under our second pillar on economic empowerment and livelihoods. Still focusing on how we can empower them to make a living, but also realizing that they don't have that foundation of skills for them to fall back on. So the program focuses mostly on, firstly, the skills development. In addition to the life skills that we train them, we also do the skills development. So these are agricultural technical skills, or maybe other vocational technical skills that they require. The assumption that most development people make is, because we are working in the rural areas and we are in agrarian society, everyone wants to start a business in agriculture. But when you speak to them, they'll tell you that my dream is to be a tailor, or to do interior design, or to do hairdressing. So we take the technical skills to them. And so they go through a short technical skills training program. We then layer it with our usual programs on financial literacy, on internal savings and lendings, and we support them to form group projects. So in their groups, they set up income generating ventures, and the model is such that as they are working in their groups, these are things that they can go and replicate in their own individual spaces. So they start a poultry project, they can go and replicate this at home. They start maybe making reusable sanitary pads, because we still haven't forgotten about our menstrual hygiene space. So they are sewing, they're making reusable sanitary pads, but they can also use these skills to set up their own tailoring ventures. So in the rural setup, this is how we are trying to address issues of youth unemployment and also the other social ills that we see in those spaces.
Interesting things that you are telling me now. I'm going to go a bit off script. I want to know from you, how then do you go about identifying the vulnerable groups? So
in the Uplift Leadership Development Program that I spoke about for the urban areas, we advertise for people to participate on the program. And because of funding issues, and we've not been able to fully fund this program. So when we do advertise and have interviews, we do mention that you are supposed to pay. We call it a commitment fee, because it also shows that you're committed for the 8 months. So for the Uplift program, we advertise on various media platforms, even on Kubatana. People apply. We have interviews for selection. So the interviews are really not to turn people away, but it's to assess your development needs. It's also to get to know and appreciate these young women better and seeing how we can be of more value to them. It's also seeing who we can link them up to for mentoring purposes. So it's really a get to know each other type of interview base. So that's how we select our participants for the Uplift program. For the economic empowerment program in the rural areas, we've been fortunate to be donor funded. We've received funding from New Zealand Aid. We've received funding from the Egmont Trust. And so when we go into the communities, we go through the usual channels, the traditional leaders, the church leaders, the schools, help us identify vulnerable young women who would benefit from this program. So the churches identify the people, the community leaders, even the chiefs, the sabukus, the schools even, because they know the girls in their communities who dropped out of school at whatever reason. So they call out for these women and they come, we form our groups and the program gets running. That's how we identify them.
What motivated you to go out there and be able to reach out to all these vulnerable groups and help them on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. So as we were trying to see how we can make Talia more sustainable and more impactful to young women, I also joined a lot of other women-led organizations, because the question I would get is, why do we need another women organization? We've got so-and-so doing this, we've got so-and-so doing that. So I got affiliated with quite a number of them just to get to understand the programs that they were running. And my assessment, just a disclaimer here, my assessment of those that I was really connected with, particularly the women-led organizations, for me, it seemed as if they were more targeting a certain type of young woman. Someone who can afford to come for a high tea, for example, or for a breakfast meeting. So it's really valuable stuff that you're doing. But then, who then do you target? So I saw that there's a gap with regards to targeting the women and the girls who stay on the other side of town. So as we were developing our program, we wanted to make it more accessible and to bring the same value that someone would get from attending a breakfast meeting at Cresta and taking it to Warren Park, for example. So that's what motivated us to reach out to the other side of town with regards to our programs. Then still looking and assessing at the development programs that were out there, it was seeing the accessibility of these programs to the rural women, the rural young women. So there are many other organizations who are doing valuable work, but we've always tried to develop something that that is more accessible at the grassroots level.
Mm-hmm. Would you have any generic, without being particular, projects, social entrepreneurship projects that you have started and the people who have benefited from this have been able to be weaned off from your organization and they are running their own successful enterprises?
Oh yes, we've got quite a number of them. I'll touch on a few individuals from the Earthen program. This is our third year running, so we actually have our third cohort. So with regards to the first cohort for Uplift, we have successful individuals who have started amazing projects. I can talk about ladies such as Sympathy Mazarutse, who is doing Amandla products, which is peanut butter and other nutritional and healthy products. We also have young women from this platform who, like I mentioned, that our target is to go into the employment space. So they are excelling in their places of work. We've got young women working for organizations such as Zimbabwe Farmers Union, and they've been able to place them into places where they can excel professionally. We also have in the other cohorts, we've got Liz Nyamuda, who's doing very well. She has her own entrepreneurship venture with regards, which is called Kamba Washables. And just to mention that as Talia, we see ourselves as a bridge to link up these young women with other programs that are out there. So the young women that I'm speaking about, such for example, Sympathy, she participated on the CBZ entrepreneurship program and she won first prize. So she also got a substantial amount to invest in her small business. Liz who also participated on our Uplift program, also participated in the ILO Green Enterprise, also won first prize under that the Green Enterprise pillar, and she's also investing in her small business. So those are success stories we can talk about. In the rural space, we've got communities such as Masembura in rural Bindura, where we've got young women who started off with poultry projects, which we started with them. But then this poultry project, it was a group project because of the model that I spoke about. But then it grew to such an extent that they were able, from 100 chicks, it started with 100 chicks, broiler chicks. It's a group of 15 women. But a year later, they were buying Boschveld chicks for each of the women in the group. So they now all have their individual projects with Boschveld chicks. And this same group is also contributing to community development, because our vision as Talia is not for the individual to have a successful life, but the success should trickle down to the community. So at Masembura Primary School, these women have started a school feeding program for 600 children, started a nutritional garden, and each child who goes to this school gets at least a meal a day. And these are all the successes that we can talk about. So particularly in Mashonal and Central, we've got groups in, like I mentioned, Masembura, we've got a group at Mashambanaka, we've got 2 groups in Ruya, in Mount Darwin, in Glendale area, and these are all the successes that we are seeing from the ventures that the women are doing.
You have been running this organization successfully so far. The next 5 to 10 years, where do you see yourself?
So that's an interesting question. Just as an aside, the other day my husband said to me, he mentioned that an individual, and he was like, maybe this person can run Talia in the next 5 to 10 years. And I asked, so that got me thinking that, it's something that we do a lot as founding directors. We tend to hold on to our babies. But then in the next 5 years time, as Talia, we see ourselves growing, covering all the provinces in this country. Right now, we are very active in Mashonal and Central. We've got some work that we do in Mashonal and East and in Manicaland, but we want to cover all the 4 corners of the earth, 4 corners of Zimbabwe. And then we also see ourselves extending within the region. We want to go into Mozambique, we want to go into Namibia, we want to just take the skills and what we can offer within outside Zimbabwe. But with regards to growth for the organization as well, I see myself transitioning. I'm hoping that I'm raising leaders in what I'm doing who are able to carry this initiative forward. So I see myself transitioning into some other role, some oversight role, but not so much involved in the day-to-day running. So one thing that I can tell you, Shepherd, is because this is a startup, I started this organization working from my kitchen table. I started this organization as the only employee. And right now we've got 6 full-time staff members, but I'm still very much involved in the training, in the writing proposals, in the day-to-day running of the organization. So I'm hoping that we are raising leaders, and I see myself passing on the baton to someone else. Another journey that we are on is when we started the organization full-time, like 3 years ago, we set ourselves up as a non-profit organization. But because of the frustrations that we are also seeing with regards to fundraising, it's no secret that in Zimbabwe that we've got limited donor funding coming into the country, and we've got so many people chasing after the same limited dollars. So we are now transitioning this organization and setting it up as a social enterprise so that we generate income from some activity that we do, which we reinvest into the social part or aspect of the work that we are doing. So in the next 5 years, to 10 years time, I see myself totally weaning ourselves from donor funding, but being self-funded and being able to make an impact in the lives of the women and girls that we get in contact with.
COVID-19, the coronavirus, is still raging havoc. It's a scourge that has not spared anyone. How has this affected your organization in particular and other maybe people that you work with?
So yeah, it's really unfortunate that COVID-19 came when we were really totally unprepared for it and totally unexpected. And we got to a stage where the catchphrase was, businesses should pivot. And you're looking at your own business and you're thinking, am I pivoting or am I spinning? Because of the lack of unpreparedness. But it has really affected us because during the initial stages of the lockdown, we were also concerned at the health and health of our own staff members and the health of the people that we impact. So we put all our activities on standstill. And it's only now that because we work in essential services, we do a lot of work in agriculture, mental health outreaches. So we are now able to reach out to certain audiences that we usually service. But we went through like 4 weeks of a total shutdown, but we took the time to really regroup and rethink, re-strategize on the way forward for our organization. We took the time as well to build on our capacity. There was a lot of training programs available online. So we made sure that all our staff members were, sharpening our tools and making ourselves better for the next phase. We also then started as well producing these cloth face masks. And these are now training sessions that we are taking to the rural women because you know what, they get the messages late and also interventions get to them late. So we now have a simple design that we are training rural women on how to make your own cloth mask from what you have and also to benefit and protect your family. We also are now going into the rural communities with regards to messaging on hygiene principles, washing your hands, social distancing, whatever it is, and just making sure that all our women are healthy, are safe, and are taken care of in the face of this pandemic.
Saliwe, I normally try and find out from people like you. We may be having somebody who has been trying to run a project and has been struggling with seed capital. Any other options, any other suggestions that you may say they can still be able to realize that particular dream if they keep on aspiring?
So I did mention that we do a lot of financial literacy training for our audiences, and most of them are aspiring business people. And everyone, you ask someone, they've got a brilliant idea and they tell you, I don't have the money. But our philosophy and my personal philosophy is start with what you have. One of the curricula that we train our people on, or our young women on, is called Street Business School. And we are licensed trainers of this curriculum. And what it really imparts to the aspiring entrepreneurs is start with what you have. You do have something and somewhere to start from before you go out and look for seed capital. I can give an example. Some of these young women that we speak about, they've got 5, 6 pairs of shoes, 5, 6, 8 handbags, and they want someone to give them money to start a business. And the question would be, do you really need 8 pairs of shoes and 8 handbags? Or you can sell off and use that as seed money to start your business. Start from there. And even as you look for potential investors, if they see that you have started, it shows your commitment. So start from somewhere. With regards to our rural young women, like I mentioned, we get them into groups and they do their own ISOs, savings clubs. Even if it's $1 a week, but you are starting from somewhere and then you let your business grow. So my advice is start with what you have. Look around you in your home. Do you have something that you can offload so that you invest it in your passion? And then people will come and then add on to what you've already started. I really discourage people from looking from seed capital, particularly if it's a loan. You are not certain on how the business will perform. You are not certain of whether pandemics like COVID will hit you, and you've got a loan to repay. So the last thing that you need as an aspiring business person or aspiring entrepreneur is the headache of someone trying to collect the loan, the debt collector or whoever it is, and you can't generate enough. So my advice is start with what you have. And when you've exhausted that, go to the next round, which could be friends and family. Have them buy into your idea and invest in it, into your business before you go to the bank, to the microfinance or wherever it is for seed capital.
Saliwe, I'm very much impressed, especially with the noble cause where you are reaching out to the vulnerable. Your last words to those that may be listening to this program, especially women and the girl child. What do you have to say?
So my last words, I think I mentioned this at the start, that I think now is the time for women to arise. And my favorite scripture of the moment is from Isaiah 60. We all know it. Arise and shine. And my advice is just arise and shine, women out there. Just don't look at the circumstances, and just pursue your passion, pursue your purpose. Don't look at what's going on around you. We've got COVID, the whole world is on lockdown, but we still have people thriving in such a dark space that we are going through as a nation or as the whole world. So as long as you keep pushing on, keep pressing forward, you are bound to get your breakthrough. I also want to encourage women, whether you're already established or aspiring, to support each other. This is what really breaks my heart with regards to women in Zimbabwe. We are not there yet. We do not support each other as much as we should in the business space or even in the personal space. Women are the biggest culprits of bringing each other down. So my advice is for women to start supporting each other. Sometimes you look at yourself and you think, I'm not doing that well. I'm only selling maybe 10 bottles of peanut butter. But you know what? You can mentor someone to start, and you can share your journey and inspire someone else. And when it comes to the women who have already made it, please be accessible to the women who need mentorship. How frustrating it is to keep knocking on doors of these CEOs, MDs, knowing that you can learn from them, you can benefit from them, but there's such a wall. We can't get access to them. So please be accessible and also help someone else grow and develop. As you invest in someone else, as you invest in their business, even if it's time, even if it's, just a few words of wisdom, the fulfillment that you will receive, and even, God will also bless you beyond measure, and you won't know where these blessings are coming from, but it's the investment that you're making in developing the next young women to be as successful as you are.
Saliwe, I am very grateful. I have got no doubt that you have spoken to one of our viewers, if not all of them. I hope to have you again on this program. Next time we'll be sharing on some of the success projects that you guys are working on. To our viewers across the globe, we will continue inviting people like Saliwe. They will always inspire and motivate somebody who is trying to do something somewhere. Please continue to subscribe and watch out for our next shows. Saliwe, thanks once again for coming to.
Thank you so much, Shepherd. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you very much.